because I everybody, welcome to Rachel's Reviews, and I am so excited today. This is a very special episode of the podcast, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm a film critic, and there's certain interesting challenges and blessings of being a female film critic, and I wanted to bring some of my fellow sisters and film critics in and to talk about our experiences, and I'm so grateful for the amazing panel that I have with me to talk about this. And first, we have Louisa from Screen Zealots.
Hello.
Yes. And then Ashley Menzel is here.
Hi.
Yes. And then Peggy from Peggy Watches Movies is here.
There.
Yes. Thank you so much. So I'd like first for you each to introduce yourself and maybe give a little bit of how you ended up becoming a film critic, how you started writing about film. So Louisa, let's start with you.
Oh, me. Oh, my gosh. I've been a movie lover my whole life. I grew up in a very, very small town, and all we really had were movies, like old videotapes I would watch and wear out. I always loved movies. I studied cinema studies in college. And interestingly enough, it was Kevin Smith who made me want to start being a critic. I heard him speak at Sundance one year. And he said, hey, get your voice out there as much as you can. And I started Screen Zealots in 2016 and never looked back. I've been writing ever since.
Great.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's really great that Kevin Smith, of all people.
Yeah, random. I mean, it's random, but love it.
All right, Peggy, what about you?
Same here. I started off, I actually was a talent manager for 12 years. And managed actors. And I was that kid who also was like, I would sit on every Sunday afternoon and watch Siskel and Ebert, to where my mom would be like, what are you watching these two men talk about movies for on TV? I would be like, because it fascinated me. They fascinated me of what they did. And so after management, I had always gone to, of course, you always go to movies, you're constantly going. And I slowly started off, and luckily, I knew some people that helped me, really said, you need to sit down and do this and actually make it something of your own and put your voice out there. And so I did. And I started Peggy at the Movies.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Ashley, what about you?
My dad was always into movies when I was younger, so I was watching the same movies on repeat. I mean, I was traumatized by the birds at probably age 6, so I'm still petrified of birds, but it was always something that was a huge part of my life growing up. And then when I made it to college, I started studying foreign languages, which is what my major was in, and part of that was studying foreign language film. So I ended up taking like 6 classes on foreign language film and analyzing it, and I kind of just kept developing that love of film. And then I met Scott, who ran We Live Film at the time, and he, as wonderful as he is, was always encouraging me to write, and people want to hear what you have to say. You have, an important voice, and he was always supportive of that for me. And, I kind of jumped in to help him hands-on running We Live Film, and then it became We Live Entertainment, and kind of just progressed from there, and something that I really love doing.
That is great. Well, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is just the process of writing a review.
What about your story, Rachel? Real quick.
Yeah, everyone knows mine. So I got started in becoming a film critic. It was something I always kind of loved, is criticism and reading criticism, watching Siskel and Ebert. I was totally that girl. And going to film. And I had a blog for many, many, many years that I would do reviews occasionally on, a personal blog. And then I got injured in 2014 or something like that. And I tore my MCL. I was bedridden. I was bored. And so I decided to start reviewing, to watch all the Disney canon. It was something I'd always wanted to do. And I decided to start blogging about it. And the time was 54 Disney reviews. Yeah, because that was how many were in the canon. And now it's changed to Rachel's Reviews, but I just really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed writing about these films. And I started doing more than just the Disney films. And I just really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed interacting with people. And we'll talk more about that. But at first, I really did. And so that's how I kind of got started. And then I started writing for rotoscopers, and got involved in YouTube, and it all kind of just grew and into podcasting. And they found my reviews on rotoscopers, and that's how they found me for Rotten Tomatoes and just everything.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah, I never would have thought that it wasn't that I didn't think I could do it. I just never even thought it was like something that I could do.
Right. Yeah. You have that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. Exactly. That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah. But then I don't know, things have just, I mean, it's a tough side hustle, but it's really fun and I miss it so much. Even though I've been able to keep writing, it's not the same as going to the screenings and, just sort of, I miss that so
and the
much.
social interaction of meeting people and talking to people, all of that, of like everything, of talking, seeing the people that I always see at the screenings, and talking to them afterwards about it. I miss that a lot.
Yeah, I guess I should ask have you guys been surviving quarantine?
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah. I think we're all doing our best.
Yeah. It's been crazy. It's been way harder than I expected. But I have missed the experience of going to the screenings. I missed so much.
Right. Even sometimes like when you take an afternoon and just go to the theater by yourself. Like a random, like an indie movie, we have what's the Lemley theaters here, and they have little, the foreign and indie movies that you don't really get a lot of screenings for. And so, I just pick an afternoon and I miss that.
We have the Broadway downtown. It's our indie theater. You've probably been there for Sundance, the Broadway, Louisa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then that's our big indie theater. And so, there's been Saturdays where I'm like, well, what do I normally do today? And I'm like, I would have been at the Broadway the whole day.
Exactly.
Basically. And just spent, and you can't do that anymore. Yeah. Hopefully it'll come back to us.
I know.
But yeah, so I want to talk about sort of the process of writing a review, because I think that's something that people maybe don't understand and think that we have our review made up when we've gone to see before we got to see the film, that we're trying to please a particular person or studio or this kind of a thing. And so I was curious to hear from you ladies, your process of kind of what you do when you've seen the movie, now I have to write about it. And what about you, Ashley? What do you think?
I think it's interesting that you bring up how people perceive what we write. And I think as females, we're under that lens a lot more than our male counterparts, especially when it's a film that is female-centric. It's always like some guy is telling you or some person is telling you that you've had your mind made up and the only reason you like it is because it's written by females or it stars females or you didn't even watch the film and you just wrote this. I think that's something that we face a lot. But my process is similar for no matter what film I see. I take notes during the movies. Some people do, some people don't. I don't know if you guys do. I just find that it helps me to remember more specific details. And I finished the review, I finished the film, and then I actually take a look at my notes and I read them and I circle things and I summarize them and write points and asterisks and all over the place. My notebook looks like a disaster at the end of it. And then I just kind of sit down and I start writing those points out and figure out, what I want to say. And sometimes, I don't know if you guys find this too, I find that after reading my notes, my review takes a different form than I expected it to take, because when you go out of it, you're like, oh, I really like that film. And then you get to the deeper analysis of why you liked it, and then your passion for it grows, I think. And that's what I find is the most rewarding thing about writing, is because when you get the chance to re-examine even your own thoughts about a film, you appreciate it or tear it apart on a whole nother level.
Yeah. What about you, Peggy? What do you think?
Well, my process is sometimes I take notes. I have to say that sometimes I've taken notes and then tried to decipher what it is that I've said written in the dark, and I can't. So what I've found works for me now is I bring my notebook, I walk out of the theater, and I sit down and write down like 10 major thoughts that I know that it is fresh in my head. Or I'll drive home, and as I'm driving home, I'll be contemplating it and come out and type up 10 just blurbs real quick, and so I have it, and then I'll step away for a little bit and come back and really, like you said, delve into the thought process of it. Especially like you said too, we are under more scrutiny. Say a male-based movie, like if you don't like an action-packed, Fast and Furious movie, they'd be like, it's because you're a girl, you don't like those movies because no, it's not. If there's something about it that I liked, then I liked it. And if there's something about it I didn't like, but I usually try to type stuff up and then come back and really delve into it. And I will review myself at least 10 times. Like I will review it, step away for a moment, come back, review it again, look at what I've written, and I will make sure, because I put a lot of thought and effort into it. And I don't think people sometimes realize that we actually do that.
People go down to the score, and that's all
Right.
they pay attention to, and they don't actually read what you've written. And that can be it's tempting to just not do scores at all. Unfortunately, you have to if you're Rotten Tomatoes critic. And so that can be really frustrating. It's like, I think I explained it pretty well in there. I tried at least to explain my perspective, and when it's just like, oh, well, you hated it because you gave it rotten, I'm like, ugh.
Right. People fluff over that and they don't look at it. They just pass it through.
And that's the inherent problem there with Rotten Tomatoes, is it does have this yes or no kind of, like you can't be in between. You can't be, it's okay. It has to be yes or no. And then I find that people don't even read your reviews a lot of the time. They'll scroll to the score. They might read the beginning or the end, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. I've had people like, how when you can tell when someone has clicked on your blog and it'll tell you, and it's like, I've had someone just click. I look at my emails and it's like the same person has just went down the list and went click on everything, and you can tell like they haven't taken the time to read it because they've clicked like on 5 different reviews that you've written within a minute.
Yeah.
They didn't read it. They just went to click. It's like, I put effort into that. Don't do that.
Yeah. Louisa, so you have your husband that, do you usually see most of the movies together, or it just depends?
Sometimes. He loves movies as much as I do. So Ashley, you get that too. So yeah, we do see a lot of movies together. A lot I'll see on my own, or, like critic screenings or press screenings, things like that. But yeah, a lot of times, since I'm fortunate that he shares my passion, he does see a lot of the movies with me, which is really, really nice.
Do you find that you tend to agree or not agree?
Well, it depends. But I will say, if we disagree, it gets nasty sometimes really, really quickly, because I think I'm always the one with like the correct opinion. So it doesn't happen often. We do have, especially with comedies and action and movies like that, we usually do agree on a lot of things, which is also very unusual, but cool. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you find it helpful, Ashley, to talk about the movie before you write your review, or do you want to kind of keep your own opinion, your own space?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting, like whenever we're with, Scott loves to talk about things, and I'm much more of an introverted person usually. So we have a great balance in that respect in our relationship. So a lot of the times I will say to him, I don't want to talk about it. I want to have my own perspective on it, and I don't want my opinions to taint your review and your opinions to taint my review, because what's weird is that we write reviews for the same film sometimes, and I don't want there to be that crossover of like we've written the same exact thing, because we do have very different perspectives on things, and the way that Scott looks at things isn't the way that I look at it. I actually wrote, I think it was a Facebook post or something, because everybody was kind of saying to me and Scott, you guys always agree on movies. So I wrote a post. I was like, these are the movies this year that Scott and I do not agree on. And people were like, oh, so there are ones. I'm like, you don't read my reviews then. Because we definitely
that's
do.
a point.
Yeah,
You proved a point there. You really did.
It's like, come on, man. We don't agree on everything just because we're married. I think that's the opposite of marriage.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's a good marriage is when you compliment each other and you support each other.
Yeah.
And that's the dream. You're living the dream, you two.
Agree.
But I don't know. I sometimes feel like that, people think that, oh, well, you're biased biased for Disney, for instance, or whatever, because that's where I started my reviews. And I love Disney, but I feel like, if anything, I feel like I'm sort of more inclined to be critical of them because there's that expectation, and because I love them and I expect them to make good films. And I don't know. If anything, I am like aware that expectation is there. And so I think I'm actually maybe harder. You could make an argument that I'm harder on Disney films
people
than giving them a pass, because, or any kind of time when I feel like, ooh, this film's agenda is really targeting me. It's maybe a religious film. It's about my religion, or something like that. Right. Like, I feel like I'm going to be extra diligent in making sure I'm objective, and as opposed to, I feel like everybody thinks, oh, well, you have this bias. I don't know. What do you think, Lisa, about that?
I absolutely agree with you, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I do think I'm harder on movies that have some kind of pedigree. I love Disney too. I love sci-fi. If it's a certain writer, a certain director, and I try so hard when I go into a film to sequester myself as much as possible from any kind of advertising or reading anything about it. I don't like to know the plot of anything. That's why I really, really love covering films at film festivals, because you go in, you're experiencing it for the first time, people that know nothing about it. And I think those reviews for me are sometimes the easiest to write because there's no noise around it. I'm not saying that I'm influenced. No, you guys aren't influenced, but sometimes you can't help but be if you hear something and that's what I really, really like, is when I know absolutely nothing about a movie going in, good or bad.
Same. I agree. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is one nice thing about being a critic, and that you can go to the early screenings and not have because sometimes it's shocking. I remember when the Good Dinosaur came out. I saw that and I thought it was really good. I really liked it. And I was shocked when all the reviews came out and was like, this is horrible, I hate it. And I'm like, really? Oh, okay. That's good. That's fun. But yeah, or movies that people love, and
I'm like, no. Like, that's me with Quentin Tarantino films. I just don't usually like them. So people are always really super shocked when I don't like it. But I think that the great thing about film is there's a type of film for every person. Yeah. And we don't have to like every type of film, but we can still look at it with a constructive view. I can, and you can, and all of you can analyze a film, whether you like it or not, and understand the merits for it, why people do like it.
There's been movies I have not enjoyed, but I've enjoyed, say, the acting performance. We can look at, say, something like Judy, just for instance, with Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
The movie was fair, but her performance was out of this world, So you look at, you can do things like that. I completely, see what you're saying there.
Well, and those are the hardest reviews to write, when you're just kind of like,
Yes.
I don't know. It was okay.
There's only so many ways you can say it was okay.
Right.
You're like
Lovebirds for me recently. It was fine. I laughed a little enough. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. But I went fresh on it, just barely.
Right.
Because I was like, I laughed
just tipped
just enough, and maybe it's because I was in quarantine. I don't know, but. But those are really hard reviews to write. It's like, well, or then sometimes I'll be like, is this really worth like what, $20, $50? Like Trolls World Tour? I went wrong on that because I just thought it had some good stuff. I liked it okay, but for a family to put down that kind of change, no.
Mm.
I don't think so. So it just depends on the movie. It's really it's tough sometimes, but you just try your best to explain your opinion as best you can. And you were saying, Peggy, off air that you feel like that there's some challenges that we have, particularly as being female critics. And what do you think some of those are?
Well, I do, and like you said, when you noted like let's pick one review and that we are supposed to be proud of, or two reviews, I really think that everyone needs to or your question the other day on Twitter is who's your favorite female critic? Why do we have to pick one? Why can't we be all proud of each other and support each other and support? We all take the time to put this together. We're all putting our time and effort into writing these reviews. I mean, I take it seriously. I don't just like randomly go, oh, I'm going to type this up and spit it out there and see what someone thinks. I think we should be all proud of everything that we do.
And that's what I hope that this can do. I hope that people start to realize that, because it can feel kind of lonely that like you're the only female voice sometimes. And so I hope to be able to do this with you three, and with more, because there are a lot of us out there that are taking the time to critique these films and to add our voice, because it's really important. And I think you're absolutely right with that. And I love reading criticism, especially if I disagree with it. I think it's fascinating.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Sometimes I will read someone like, I want to know why someone didn't like what I liked, or vice versa, like what I didn't like. And sometimes it'll make me go and rewatch it to see, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Did I miss a point that they're making? They've made a valid point. Now I want to see if I can see that,
Yeah. Louisa, I thought of that with I was thinking of that with our different reviews of Incredibles 2.
Yes, I remember that. Yes. I full disclosure, I'm like a huge Disney geek, like Rachel. I love Disney, Pixar, but we went very opposite on that.
Very opposite.
I was not a fan of that one.
No, and the things that it was really interesting, because the things she disliked were some of the things that I particularly liked, and so it was really interesting to read the difference of the reviews. And so I wish that more people kind of had that perspective, as opposed to you hated it, you're horrible, I'm not, like whatever kind of a thing. And I try my best to not have any sacred franchises, or directors. I'm willing to. I mean, I didn't like Rogue One, for example, and I got so much hate for that. And that was back in the day when it was not cool to dislike Star Wars. And so I'm willing to, I just judge the movie if I think it's a good movie or not. I try my best, at least. I asked you, like Peggy said, to pick two reviews that you're particularly proud of. And so the first one for me was really the first time that I kind of stuck my neck out and had a very unpopular opinion. And so I thought we could kind of talk about that. It's, as far as writing, was I did not like Birdman. Won Best Picture, popular film. And I felt like the script was so cringy to me, especially once it gets down to the female critic, since we're talking about female critics, the female critic in the movie, and just the way that she was written. And I felt that every single female character was just a shrew and difficult and horrible, and I hated the ending so much. I thought it was awful, and so I laid it out throughout the piece, and I won't just read, but I did say the cinematography was a huge accomplishment, so that was great.
Right.
But I don't know, like little things like they have this steamy lesbian kiss in the movie, which I'm fine with, but it didn't do anything. It didn't mean anything. It was only there to, I felt like, titillate men. And I'm like, aren't we beyond that? Haven't we moved past that? I thought that was lame. And I felt like Emma Stone's character was not very well done, not very well written. And so I was very frustrated. I laid out my case and I just said, I don't know. I just couldn't get past these depictions of women throughout the film. And it made the movie unpleasant and frustrating. And so that was a big moment for me when I was just like, I'm taking down the best picture. And people were not happy. But what about you, Lisa? Did you have an unpopular opinion post you said you brought?
I do, and it's a review I'm really proud of, and it's unpopular because it's a movie that was universally hated, but I really liked it.
Okay.
Which is a really interesting experience
Wow,
too.
here we go.
Here, right? And usually when I write a review and I get hate mail, it's because, it's a Marvel DC movie, which I love both, but, they get really angry and it's for men.
Right.
I counted up today when I was printing it out. I got 27 hate mails, all from women, because I liked this movie and everybody hated it. And it was I Feel Pretty with Amy Schumer.
Oh my God, I liked it.
I actually gave it a crush.
I got that as well. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's right. You remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We talked about that. Me and you talked about that.
That's interesting.
It was crazy. I got these hate mails, and a lot of them were from women who didn't see the movie. They saw the trailer.
Yeah.
And it's fat shaming. You should be ashamed of yourself. But it's like, if you see the movie, it's not. And this isn't one of my favorite movies of all time or anything. But I remember I went to a press screening for this movie, and it was one where they have members of the public, that fill the seats like the rest of the little press row.
Of course.
And I remember watching it, and the scene where she enters the bikini contest, like the wet t-shirt contest.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the males, and even my fellow critics sitting in the rows next to me were like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, oh, it's so gross. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is one of the reasons it's so important that we have more women in this field.
Exactly. That made the scene important.
To me, I wanted to stand up and cheer, like female empowerment. And it was so interesting how the men, when the movie is all about like be comfortable in your own skin, have self-confidence, like your body the way it is, they still saw her as this sex object with, a muffin top in a wet t-shirt contest. And I don't know, that's a review I'm really proud of because of that.
Yeah, that's
good.
interesting.
Exactly. I remember me and you discussing it. Remember I called it Schumer shaming.
Yeah.
That's what I called it.
But it's like the movie had a great message and a great message for women, and
I agree.
Yeah. Ashley, what about you? Did you have one that was unpopular or that you got?
I didn't pick one that is unpopular, but I can definitely tell you which one that is.
Okay.
South by Southwest, I guess it was whatever year Sausage Party played there.
Oh.
I tore that movie apart to the point where I got death threats over the movie.
Oh my God.
And I was like, wow, guys, this is a movie about food. Can we please get perspective on it? I was very mean. I'm very rarely mean in my reviews. Kitty cat. That's okay. I'm very rarely mean in my reviews about movies because I believe in the effort and the creativity that was put behind them by the people who wanted to make the film, from the writers to everything else. That a whole lot of effort was put in and people worked really hard on it. So I try not to be very mean. But this one was it was one of those movies where you're in a theater and everyone around you is laughing, and it's like the Twilight Zone. You're like, what? Where am I? What's going on? Why is this funny? I'm from another planet. This is what am I missing? I'm watching this. I'm going, this is disgusting. This is stupid. I'm just I just could not get past that. And I wrote a really, really negative review, and to the point where I had to remove it from the website. Because people were finding my personal emails and my personal Facebook and stuff and coming after me. So it was something that I removed, and reading it again, I was like, wow, that was kind of harsh. But I don't think it's up on the website anymore. But that was definitely one where I got attacked for it. And I'm really hard with comedies. I don't think most mainstream comedies are very funny because I don't think they're geared towards women. It's one of the biggest things. I think they're very much sexual, male-based humor, and I don't think that resonates with me personally very well.
Well, and the whole like man-child, like the Judd Apatow kind of. I'm not saying those movies can't be funny, but I just am so tired of it. I'm tired of these, and maybe it's because I'm almost 40. I don't know, but that kind of humor is just like, ugh, grow up.
Yeah. And I think that's why women who criticize those movies get attacked so much, because of that hardcore fan base that believes in that sense of humor as being so integral to their identity in a way. So that was one that I definitely got torn apart on. And of course, all of us are under criticism for any DC or Marvel movie that ever is made and ever will be.
Love it or hate it. You're wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter what.
You like a Marvel movie? No matter what. You can't win with superhero movies ever.
I know. That's why I was just like, I'm not going to review Birds of Prey. Like, there's plenty of other people. There's plenty of other people that can review it. I'm going to take a pass just for my own mental health, and I never did. And I don't know. I don't regret it. And the thing about the Shazam review, and that wasn't a written review, it was a YouTube review, which was a mistake because I'm a better writer than I'm an orator. But I should have done it. The thing about the Shazam review is that I didn't hate the movie. I just felt like it missed the mark as far as balancing tone. You'd have this really pretty violent scene next to this really kiddie kind of silly scene. And I didn't feel like the character was the same person very well. Like that Zachary Levi was the young man very well. So I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it.
You're making sense.
I'm a crazy person. That's how I felt. And I mean, people acted like the idea of balancing tone was the most ridiculous complaint you could have about a movie. Like, how could you use that as a reason to not like a movie? I'm like, that's a very like basic foundation of film is tone.
Right.
Like, that's like chapter 2 in how to make a movie. You have to have your tone, and so if you can't balance it, then that's a problem. And so the biggest thing that was the problem that got me targeted in that movie review was because I was only, I think, the third critic to give it a negative on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was the first and one of the only women. And so there was an organization called F Marvel Tards that tagged me. I know they did, and because I got the tag notice, whatever, and they sent their goons out after me, and that's when I got the mass shooting threats, and it was insane. Yeah, that saying that if I ever go to a screening again, he was gonna come in with an A-47 or whatever. And
oh my god!
Yeah, it was crazy. I had to notify the FBI. I had to, and it definitely. I thought that I was had pretty thick skin, but it definitely threw me a lot. And
I don't think their skin thick enough for that.
Yeah, I was just like watching Hallmark movies and trying to stay sane. But I think I hope that I'm finally kind of coming out of it, and I felt,
gosh,
yeah, it was really hard.
That's sorry. Awful. That's just shocking me. I mean, you just saw my jaw almost drop. Just like, what? Over a movie?
Yeah, it was, I mean, and it's crazy because my review, like, took it from what, a 93 to a 92 and a half? I mean,
Right.
Like, what? And after that, there were some more people, like Leonard Maltin gave it a rotten, and his review was actually almost exactly identical to mine. He's had the almost exact same complaints about tone. I was like, yes, okay, but and I want people to love Shazam. I want people to love all movies. Why would I want someone to go to a movie and have a bad experience? I want you to have a good experience. I don't want you to have. And but yeah, people really, really take these superhero movies personally.
That's a little too much, though. That's just that's overstepping of bounds. That just shouldn't be done.
It was an experience, but I have to say, Rotten Tomatoes was amazing. They were so supportive the whole time.
Well, that's good.
So
That's great.
I'm grateful for that. But yeah, and it was interesting too, because then I didn't like Spider-Man Far From Home. It was just not my year for superhero movies, I guess. And that was actually not that bad. I didn't get that much hate for it, so who knows?
Yes. I didn't like that movie either, and people. Oh wait, no, is that the first one? Or that's the second one. Never mind.
Second one.
I didn't bother with that one because I hated Homecoming so much. It was just like. And people also were really upset with my review for that because I felt like that movie was hilarious in the way that it approached things, because it kept beating you over the head with things like you weren't smart enough to pick up on it. Yeah. It's like, hey, this is a reference to a John Hughes movie. Hey, this is a reference to a John Hughes movie. You didn't get it? Here's the John Hughes movie in the background. And I'm like, pretend we're smarter than that, please.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was my issue, but I didn't venture into Far From Home because I don't.
Yeah. That's like me and Birds of Prey. I'm just like, it's not worth it.
There's certain ones you cut yourself off from because it's just not worth the mental anguish that you're going to go through to do it. And I think part of our duty to ourselves as critics is to make sure that we're safeguarding ourselves as much as we can and taking that mental health break that we need from social media or
definitely
things like that. I mean, I don't have the Twitter app downloaded on my phone. I know that's like a shock.
No, I have the same as you. I have the same as you. I will not look at it on my phone anymore. I gave up when I went to lunch and the other person just did not look up from their phone one time, and I just said, "That's it, we're done."
I'm bad. I understand I'm addicted. That. It's bad. It's bad. But
it's not bad to be bad, though. If you can handle it, you know what I mean. It's not bad.
Yeah, you just have to know. You have to know
you have to know your limits.
Limits, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do find it interesting, though, that so many of us have skipped a review or skipped reviewing a movie because we're a little apprehensive about the reaction it's going to get. That's really interesting to me. And I wonder if that's something a lot of female critics deal with more than our male counterparts. I wouldn't review Joker for that reason. I'm like, there's no way I'm touching that after I saw it. It's not worth it. But it's interesting that, and
I agree. Yeah, it's like I'm on the Marvel thing. Like, I don't review. I made the mistake of asking when they first started that whole Snyder Cut thing. I made the mistake of asking someone who had that as their Twitter name, and I should have known. And I was just bombarded for days of why I didn't know. How could I not know what that was?
Wow.
I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't understand.
I'm not reviewing this.
Really, I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't understand what the purpose was behind trying to get it released. Why are you trying so hard? You know?
It's really sad. I mean, I'm not going to review the Snyder Cut. No way. There's no way. And it's sad that I mean, I don't even really. I mean, I'm fine, but just because of my experience with the fans, I don't really want to watch it. I might be somewhat curious otherwise, but yeah. Another example is Mara Reinstein. She did an article in the Huffington Post where she talked about the death threats that she'd gotten from after she gave a negative review of Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow,
that.
Well, I won't say anything about my review of Aquaman then.
I actually didn't hate Aquaman. Aquaman. I got like letters saying I must be like a shill for the studio.
You're right.
Yeah,
I think
that's
my
the other
review was
side.
average. I think my review was average, right? I think from what I remember. Yeah.
You can't win with anything that has to do with
No.
superheroes ever.
No,
They've
Yeah.
got this like fandom that just, I mean, they, want to argue to the death with you over it. And I'm like, it's a movie and we're each allowed to have opinion.
It's always weird to me when I know that Louisa, you do a lot of film festivals like I do.
Mhm.
So it's always interesting to me that I'll write a review at a film festival particularly, and I'm like 7 films later in my journey of that film festival, and someone's still on that first film. I'm like, dude, I saw that 5 days ago.
Right.
I've seen 15
Moved on.
movies since then. Live in your little space and I'll be over here.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm always like, why is this? I understand the passion for film, but when you glob onto like one thing and like make it your be all end all,
Well, the funny thing
Very
too about
hard.
film festivals is those are movies they haven't even seen.
exactly.
That always gets me when you get the hate for movies they haven't even seen. And
You don't understand that. That's my favorite thing that I get at a film festival. You just didn't get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so you've seen it too? Cool.
Right.
But there are moments, I think the really sweet moments are when you find something that's a hidden gem.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
you have the experience of introducing it to people, even if it's just a few people and it's just your readers. And one of the experiences that I had with that, one of my favorite reviews that I've written, is for a little animated movie called The Son of Bigfoot. You see it and you think this is like those Kung Fu Panda ripoffs. It looks like from the advertising, from the cover, it looks cheap. And like there's no heart or artistry into it. But then you actually watch it and it's actually pretty clever and pretty creative, and the animation is actually pretty decent. And I'm not saying it's the greatest movie ever, but it was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I thought, and so I try to see all of the animated films that come out, and all the Christmas movies, and you find these like when you do that, you find these like little gems that nobody's going to find, and then it's so exciting when you have that chance to be like, guys, check this out. This is really good. And I even when I wrote the review, I said other times I approached the keyboard with great anticipation because I can tell you about something that surprised me. It's like I heard a great secret and can't wait to share it with all my friends. Today is such a day. And I think that is just really the best.
Right. And people don't realize that we actually get emotional over that.
Mm-hmm.
No, really, you do. You get emotional feelings for it, and I think a lot of times people don't recognize that we actually can have that. You can get emotional over a movie and have feelings that make you feel that way. You could see the emotion on your face right there as you were talking about that, Rachel.
I mean, what's the point of doing this if it doesn't move us, if it doesn't excite us, and that's just the best, I think, moment of all. And I don't know if if any of you have had that kind of similar experience that you'd want to share.
I did actually just last year, and I have to say this: it was the Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah.
And I went and saw it like probably 2 months before it was out, and they were like begging people to come to a screening, and nobody would go because, I mean, granted, the name, and we all have to remember too that until last year, Shia LaBeouf wasn't, kind of had fallen off our radar. We weren't sure where he was, and just that movie, I sat there and I was in maybe one of 10 critics that were there, and it just moved me. I got moved by the whole entire thing, every bit of it. I just walked out going, wow.
Yeah.
So it
that's
does
a good
happen.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else have one like that you want to share? I know it's off the top of your
I'm
head,
trying
but
to think, like, yeah, I mean, I know there's so many, because to me, that's one of the most rewarding things about what I do, is when I see something so small and I'm able to write a review and I convince someone else to see it. Or, I'm helping out a little filmmaker. It's their passion project. They sold their car and, sold stuff on eBay to finance a movie.
Right.
And off the top of my head, I can't think of a good one, but as soon as this is over, I'm going to say, oh my God.
Yeah, I was gonna say another one. I can think of another one right off the bat. Support the Girls. Did you guys ever see Support the Girls?
Yeah.
That was another one that got me. I was like, wow. I mean, so you could tell how low budget it was, but there was something about that movie that really struck a chord with me.
There were definitely, I mean, it got pretty big news, but definitely Your Name was one that I have been its greatest champion, I think. The anime film, it really inspired me and is everything that I love in the world. I love movie. I mean, it's probably why I liked I Feel Pretty. I love movies with body swapping. It's like this weird niche that I love. It always works for me. I just love it. And but Ashley, what's one of the reviews that you brought that you were thinking of?
Well, on that topic where you were talking about films that you can, champion, or smaller films, I think that's what is one of the greatest appeals for film festivals for me, and Lisa might be able to speak to that too, is that you get to see these films before they really know what they're going to do with them for a lot of, if they're picked up for studios. If they're not picked up by studios, you're trying to get a studio to notice it, or they're trying to get a studio to notice it, and to kind of be part of that first initial thing. I get very excited to have other people watch movies that I've seen. And that happened with the first review that I pulled out, and that was Booksmart, because it's an example of one of the films where we need varied representation and criticism of films like that. It's a female-led film. It's a female-directed film. And it's one that needs to get the voice of women behind it, whether you like it or not. You can have the ability to be critical of it, as you should be, but you can also love it and be very important to adding to the criticism of something like that. And what I really liked about the film, and I think this is something that's not done well in a lot of films we see, where women of different body types are represented, kind of like I Feel Pretty, where it has to be part of the plot. If somebody's overweight, it has to be mentioned. It has to be alluded to in why they're unlikable, or why they're unlovable, and why they're alone. And what I think is great about Booksmart is it never did that. It never addressed Beanie Feldstein as being overweight or unlikable because of the way she looks. It was always her personality or her tenacity. And it was never that this person is not lovable because of a certain body type. And I thought that was something that we don't find in male-led or male-directed films very often. And I thought that I had this really big passion for this film as being, very representative of the female voice right now.
Yeah, that's really good. That it's almost like they talk about effortless diversity, where it's not like diversity where it has to be mentioned and part of the plot and, whatever, it's just there. But there's also sort of effortless female presence. I guess I don't know what the word you'd want to use, but yeah, I think that's a really good point. Peggy, did you have a review that you wanted to share?
I did, and it's, we're kind of, my mind now has moved from what my initial choice was.
Yeah.
And I know you guys, it's something that kind of made a point to me, and I know I was not a fan of the person in this movie at all. I have not been. She's a huge star. And I just was never her fan. And I walked out of this movie with mad respect for this person. And the movie was Hustlers. And the person was Jennifer Lopez. And I kind of made my review and a letter to her. Like, dear, I wish I could have because when you think about her career and what she's accomplished, she's actually done this. She was a fly girl, for God's sakes, a backup dancer on a show in the 90s, and look where she is today. And there she is up on screen at age 50, holding her own with girls half her age. And I just thought she really, and granted, I'm not talking about the movie itself or the plot of it or anything like that. It was my respect for her as a person that changed.
Yeah. Well, people have to understand these reviews. You're asking for my thoughts on this movie in this moment of my life, this time. I can't project how I'm going to feel about it in 6 months, how I'm going to feel about it in 2 years. And sometimes it does change. I don't think too radically for me. Like usually I'm in the ballpark, but occasionally I'll have something that I'll revisit that I loved, in my 20s, and I'm like,
that happens.
I don't know about that anymore.
What did I see in this movie?
Yeah. But I know a lot of people were frustrated with about Green Book, that because I gave a positive review of Green Book. And I took in, because I saw it before, a lot of other reviews were in, and I took in the information that the perspectives, all the different perspectives out there. And, it definitely did make me think about my review, but I still overall had a good experience watching the movie, and I can't take that away from the film. But I get it, and I understand, and I appreciate it, and I'm a better person for having read those reviews. I don't know. It's an interesting process, I think.
Do you guys ever go back and rewrite or update a review based on watching it again?
Like an addendum, kind of?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think.
I feel like I need to do that for Force Awakens because I loved it so much. But I haven't. I'm trying to think.
Because someone brought that up to me a couple months ago. They said, we were talking about a film, and I said, I really loved, I don't remember what it was, but I said, I really love that. And they're like, well, have you watched it again? And no, I haven't watched it again. I watch hundreds of movies a year. I had to
Right.
So they were like, well, if you watch it now, your opinion will change of it. So you should probably change your review. And I'm like, but our reviews are done in the context of the time that we see them and where we are in our
at
lives.
that moment, right?
So I just was wondering if you guys think that's something worth looking back at and changing, or if you feel like it's encapsulated in that time and that's how it should stay.
I don't know. It's an interesting question.
It is.
I think my initial thought would be like, my review is of that time. If I revisit that movie in 5 years and my opinion has changed, I would rewrite a different review.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would probably do that and say, you know what? I looked back at this and this is, and that's something I have to say. It's not, my mind has never been changed, but people have asked me to rewatch the movie again. And I tried the movie Room. Everybody talked about that. I thought it was an episode of Law and Order SVU. I did not like it, and that was the most hate mail I've ever gotten, was how could I not love that movie?
Yeah.
And I've tried to rewatch it, and my opinion, it stayed the same. And I was even like at a whole, I even went and saw it a second time for a whole Q&A with that cast and everything to see if something, because a lot of times I like the post Q&As because the directors and the act and the cast really give insight into me to things about the movie that I might have missed as I'm watching it. And sometimes you get an insight into a scene or something that they really explain to you, and it does change, like as I'm there watching it, it changes my I see that now, and it changes a little bit about my opinion about the movie. But that one, no, I haven't changed.
It's funny you mentioned that movie because the fire alarm went off in the middle of watching that movie. And it was right when he's jumping off the truck. And I was just like, oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
So that was interesting. I've only had that happen twice. I had it the other time that happened was when I went to see Avatar the fire alarm went off in the middle
Oh
of
my
Avatar.
gosh.
It's like, that's interesting.
Wow.
Were
Yes.
you at that screening for Dark Phoenix when the fire alarm was going off at AMC Century City during it? It was like 20 minutes and
Remember?
nobody moved. We were all
Everybody
like,
just sat there.
it was a whole thing full of critics, and we were just like, nope, not
Right.
leaving. We're watching.
Not moving.
It
Not
was so
going.
funny.
I'm the opposite. I jump up and like run out. I'm the first person.
Well, it's because we could kind of tell that, like, we weren't sure. I think it was kind of like you could almost tell that it was something like it wasn't anything serious and somebody had just done something. And we were all just kind of sitting there waiting for, like, what's happening.
We're like waiting for someone from the theater to come in and tell
Right.
us, and we were all just like kind of looking at each other. And I was like, Scott, should we leave? He's like, nah. We're like,
Right.
I'm like, I just thought it was so funny. That was one of my favorite experiences at a screening in LA because everybody was so dedicated that we just stared at the movie.
Right. We just waited. La,
Yeah.
la.
Like, if we need to leave, someone will tell us.
Right. I figured it right that someone would come in and say something. You know, if there was a fire, I figured
Yeah.
they'd come in. Yeah.
Or they'd stop the movie. Like, that was the best part. The movie
It just kept going. It just kept. And remember, they sent us a thing afterwards, like, if you want to come back and rewatch it a second time because of the interruption,
We're like,
please.
"It's
But we're
okay."
showing these screenings. I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
We're okay, thank you.
That's
And it was like the height of the movie too. It was like, Louisa,
Yeah.
were you at South by for the premiere of Ready Player One?
No, but I heard about it.
That was the funniest screening to be in, where it was the climax of the film where that big like dome thing comes up and then it goes push and like the audio just dropped
Oh, no.
completely out of the film, and everybody was like, was that supposed to happen? And then South by Southwest audiences are the funniest because they just totally embrace anything. So they're starting to make like laser gun noises and everybody's going and there's no sound whatsoever. So they had to restart it 3 times before they got the audio back, and everybody cheered. But it was so
Oh
fun.
my
But
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
had
man.
interesting experiences. Sorry to diverge from the
No.
conversation.
But they're fun.
Of challenging screenings was when I saw Ford v Ferrari. I was in the middle, and I always try to be on the side, on the aisle.
Oh, I'm at aisle, yeah.
Yeah. I was in the middle, and it was so hot in the theater. We were all just like sweating. My face was red. It was so hot. And I was just like, and the fact that I really liked that movie, I think says a lot because I was just miserable and I'm like, I can't get out. I'm stuck in the middle of this row. And
Oh,
Like, this was my dedication to this movie. I was physically uncomfortable, and I still made it to the end.
yeah, I mean, and I was thinking about as far as like I don't think there's anything wrong with writing an update on and it's I don't think there's anything. We're human beings. We change,
Yeah.
we grow. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I just usually don't have
Yeah.
time because I'm writing
Right.
new movie reviews.
going and going, right. It's
That's
like
the
a
hard
never
part.
ending. Yeah.
But yeah, one of the best things about going to festivals, and I hope we don't lose this if festivals become virtual, which I'm really worried about, is just finding something that is having that unique experience. It's something that may not come out for 2 years or more, if ever.
I know, yeah.
In 2018, Sundance, they had a movie called Butterflies that was this Turkish movie about these people that find out that they're siblings. They didn't know that they had the same dad. They find out when the dad dies, they're together. And it's kind of a little bit of a dark comedy. And I thought it was hilarious. And it's like this, because you can't watch, I can never watch it again. It's not available. Every probably like month, I'm like checking to see if the Butterflies is
Give it a little check,
somewhere, because it was so funny. And there's this whole gag where these chickens eat gunpowder, and then throughout the whole movie, these chickens just explode. These exploding chickens, and every time it would make me like tears laughing. And so it's like this weird little movie that only I know about that I'm like, come back, Butterflies. That's the best.
I like when we get ones that have like different titles. Like
Yeah.
when they're at the festival circuit, they're named something else, and then you're scrolling through Hulu or something, some random streaming service, and you're like, "Hey, that's that movie I saw!" And you're like really excited to see it. I'm like, "I'm gonna watch this again."
I'm like, if anybody knows about butterflies, tell me, please.
Right. Well,
so happy.
I have you should do like Google, or wait a minute, I think I have a follow thing on my Roku that it lets me know like if something, and I've typed things in there and it'll tell me if things pop up.
That's awesome.
I mean, it won one of the jury prizes. I don't know why they never released it, but
And it never got released for anything?
my knowledge, it's never been released.
Wow.
Huh.
I've looked all over Amazon. I've looked. It's probably because it's Turkish, not in English. I don't know. But anyway, but that's like the best when you can find this thing and you get this. It's like it feels like somebody made a movie just for you, and that you're the only one that's seen it. You're like, I don't know. It's so fun. I mean, because this is an interesting question, and then I know we're going over, but do you think that watching a lot of movies like all of us do you think it helps you do you think it makes you more jaded because you notice things that other people don't notice? Or do you think that it helps you to find these hidden gems because you see so many movies? Because I was thinking about it with Jurassic World, that it's like, I probably, if I only saw 4 movies a year, I'd probably be like, oh, that was pretty good. But I was like, didn't like it. And I do think that there's something to that. But I don't know. What do you think, Lisa, about that?
I think critics, especially, we get a lot of flack from I'll just say regular moviegoers, and I am not saying that in any kind of
I know what you're saying
at all. Like, I love Avengers. I mean, come on, I am not a film snob at all. I love stupid cartoons. I love, like, Terrence Malick, high art. I mean, I like it all. But I think a lot of times I always hear, you're so out of touch. I see 3 movies a year. Paul Blart is my favorite movie. Why are you saying I should go see Tree of Life? Things like that. I think it's hard, but as somebody who does, and we all watch like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies, that it's difficult for something to excite and surprise me, especially now. So I wouldn't exactly say I'm jaded. I don't think that's true. But I think that, I've seen this before. I know what's going to happen. I know the ending. Oh, it's something different. It surprises me. And when I find something that's very different, very exciting, I tend to give it a much higher review. I guess, does that kind of make sense? I mean, I'm not being very articulate with this.
No, but I think I understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
I do.
I mean, I watch 200 Hallmark movies a year, so I'm the one who can speak to this the
I
most.
wonder if they have a crown for that.
I think we should make one for you.
You really
but you find those. I think you learn the formulas, you learn the mainstream contrivances, and then you find the ones that do it right, and it's very exciting.
Yes.
And so, you might have given something a pass before, if you only saw 4 movies a year, but then maybe you say, I still don't like that, but here's an example of something that did that way better, like the original Jurassic Park. Way better. And, or like, yes, I can see how you'd enjoy that monster movie, but here's one that did it way better. And, so I think you learn the formulas and you learn how to do the formulas well.
Yeah, I had to stop. I was the person, I got into a habit that was a bad habit of where I would guess the movie ahead of time. And, like I'd be like, oh, okay, I got da, 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 da. And I had to literally stop myself from, don't guess this movie ahead of time. Quit trying to figure it out so hard. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying too hard to be that, ahead of the game person, and I really had to take a back seat to myself on that over the years. Like, I noticed that.
Because I think people don't understand critiquing isn't about nitpicking, or it shouldn't be about nitpicking movies.
Right.
It's about celebrating movies. We love them.
I agree.
It's kind of like when you were in school and you would get a grade, and then you would get the comment from your teacher. It's like, needs improvement. It's like we're kind of trying to be like, this could be better. Here's what we think would make it better. You know, I just feel like I think studios and filmmakers can listen to feedback from all different types of people. And I'm not saying just film critics. I'm saying like the general audience will tell you what they like and what they don't like. And I just think it's a learning opportunity for something to more accurately reflect the general public. And, you know, I think that's where the idea of diversity in film criticism is also rooted, that you need to have something that represents the people who are going to see these films instead of just this generic thing that we've seen 1,000 times before.
Yeah, and frankly, without film criticism, the only barometer or anything kind of stopping, the only gauge that the studios would have, or without film criticism, the only thing stopping the studios from making terrible movies is the box office, and that's not good. We don't want. I mean, if we have the only thing stopping or curtailing the studios is the box office, then we get a bunch of Transformers movies. We get a bunch of. You need criticism as well to be a voice that's not biased by money, that's not biased by any kind of involvement in the film community as far as producing or directing or whatever. You need that voice to say, Disney, or don't do that again, please. That wasn't great, you know, or whatever it might be. And then hopefully they learn and grow and make better choices or continue making good choices if they're on a roll. Very good.
We're trying to come up with more like originality versus let's do another remake. Oh, let's reboot that. Let's reboot that one. You know?
If we didn't have criticism, if it was just the box office, we'd have Transformers and Minions movies 1 million times a day.
Right.
And I mean, thank goodness.
I mean, we're already at Fast and Furious 9.
Yeah, right. That's right.
I mean,
gotta stop at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very good. This was great. I loved talking with you three amazing ladies. This was so much fun for me. I hope that you all had fun, and we'll definitely have to do it again. And I hope that you have a good rest of, your summer if we don't talk again soon, but hopefully we will. And this was just really fun for me. I loved it. And I'd love for each of you to share how people can read your reviews and find you on social media or whatever. And so, Louisa, why don't you start?
You can find me on screenzealots.com and Rotten Tomatoes. And also, I do want to mention, all 4 of us are all members of the Online Association of Female Film Critics.
Yay!
Check out oaffc.com to find, I think we have 50 members and growing. So you can find some super awesome female voices and criticism on that site. So
I'm so glad you talked about that. I will put that in the description so people will make sure to check that out. And Ashley, where can people find you?
People can find me at weliveentertainment.com. I'm also on Rotten Tomatoes. Follow me on Twitter if you want.
Right. And Peggy, what about you?
I'm Peggy@themovies.com and also part of Cherry Picks and In Their Own League.com. And In Their Own League is also very representative of all women and non-binary. So it's a great site. We go monthly and pick things. You guys would love it.
Yes. Yeah, I'll put that in there in the description as well. Thank you so much. This was great. I really, really enjoyed talking with you. And let us know if you're listening. Let us know your thoughts about all the different things that we talked about and what you get out of reading different reviews and your perspective on criticism. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And thanks again. And we'll hopefully talk again soon. So thanks, everyone. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.